I've spent over $3,000 on gaming mice. 30 plus mice tested across thousands of hours in Valorant and CS. By the end of the video you will know exactly what $30 actually gets you versus $150. We're going tier by tier from budget wire mice to $400 exotics. I will show you where the real performance gains stop and where you are actually paying for logos. So let us start from the bottom and see how far budget can actually take you. So let's start with Logitech G102, $20 to $30, sometimes even $15 on a sale. The shape fits most hand size and works for palm, claw and fingertip. At around 85 grams it is heavier than modern mice. You will notice that weight during long sessions, and also the cable is something you will feel during fast swipes. One thing to watch out for though, this develops double click issues over time. The switches Logitech uses in this price range tend to fail after a year or two of heavy use, and it becomes super annoying in games where that actually matters. For $15 to $30 though, even if it lasts 1 year, you get your money's worth. But here is the thing, this is a wire mouse in 2026, and you might be thinking wireless at this price is impossible. It is not, and that is where things get interesting. And I'm talking about the Ages AG159P. Wireless with high polling rates for around $35 on Temu. Sounds amazing on paper, but here is what actually happened with mine. Box arrived dented, mouse glides inconsistently on my class pad, sensor stops tracking mid-round randomly. This is the reality of ultra budget Chinese mouses from Temu. The specs looks identical to Flagship mice. PAW 3395 sensor, 4000 Hz polling rate, sub 50 gram weight, but the implementation is where they cut corners. Quality control is also random, so people get perfect copies that work flawlessly for years. Some people get what I got. You are basically gambling. So you think budget wireless is a scam, right? Not exactly, because the next mouse I tested for the same price range completely changed my mind. And I'm talking about the Tech Shark X3. Now, same Temu situation, same $35 to $40 price range. Completely different outcome. Wireless, PAW 3395 sensor, up to 4000 Hz polling rate, around 49 grams. Now, this is a smaller clone of the Logitech G Pro Superlight shape, and for fingertip grip I actually prefer this over the $150 original. The smaller dimensions fit my hand better, less palm contact means more control with my fingers. I play rank matches with this, deathmatch sessions, the finals, Battlefield, all of the popular games at this point. At no point did I feel limited. I forgot that I was using a $40 Temu mouse. The sensor implementation also feels snappy, no spin outs on my glass pad, no random tracking drops like the Ages. Battery life is around 70 hours, which means you charge it maybe once a week with heavy use. But the software again is the same situation where it's getting flagged as malware, so it is what it is. Build quality is obviously cheaper than Flagship mice, the coating wears faster, scroll wheel is not as precise, side buttons feels a bit mushy. None of that though affects your aim. If I was not obsessed with testing every mouse that exists, I would make this for real. Now you might be thinking, what about the big brands? Surely Razer or Logitech have something at this price range that beats random Temu mice. And I'm talking about the Razer DeadAdder V2 Wire. Discontinued, but you can find it on clearance sales for $20 to $30 sometimes. The DeadAdder shape is legendary for ergonomic users, but compared to modern standards, it shows its age. At around 85 grams, that is heavy for 2026. Also, the cable is mega thick, not the flexible paracord styles cable modern mice use. The only reason to buy this if you specifically need a DeadAdder ergonomic shape basically, and you cannot really afford the newer V3 models. For most people though, just pass on this. The shape is great, but everything else is way too outdated. So what budget actually gets you? Under $50 you can get Flagship sensors, wireless connectivity, competitive weight, and shapes that match $100 mice. The trade-off is quality control, build materials, and software safety. But when the gamble pays off, you get 95% of Flagship performance for 25% of the price. The question is whether you want to roll the dice or pay more for consistency. And that is exactly what the next tier offers. Consistency, reliability, no more gambling. So let me prove it. The first mouse I'm going to talk about is MChoose A7. $55 to $70 depending on the variant. This is the Logitech Superlight clone, same shape, same size, similar weight at around 55 grams. PAW 3395 sensor, up to 4000 Hz polling rate option, even 8K depending on the variant that you get. If you blindfolded me and made me play, I could not tell if I was using this or the $160 Logitech. The performance feels almost identical. The difference is everything around the performance. Logitech gives you the software ecosystem, their warranty support, their brand trust, and MChoose gives you the generic box and a mouse that works just as well. And again, stock skates are decent but not amazing. Since this copies the Superlight shape exactly, any GPX compatible skates will work. Tiger Eyes, core pads, little gaming gear, whatever, or even like super glides. But what if you do not like the Superlight shape? What if you want something more aggressive and low profile? This is where the next mouse comes in. And I'm talking about the VGN Dragonfly F2 Ultra Plus. $65 to $80 depending on the model. Shape-wise, this is one of the best mice I ever felt. Similar vibe in a way to Razer Viper V3 Pro angle and the final mouse ULX that I have. That low, flat, aggressive style, but at a third of the price of these Flagship mice. Around 47 grams, PAW 3395 sensor, up to 4000 Hz polling rate, battery life around 70 hours. The clicks are light and responsive and good for spamming in games that need fast clicking. So if you play aggressive claw or fingertip and want that low profile shape without flagship prices, this is the answer. But what about wired? Is there any reason to use a cable in 2026? And I'm talking about the beloved endgame gear OP1 8K wired. $55 to $70. Best mouse on paper, 8000 Hz polling rate and actually stable 8000 Hz, not what a lot of other companies tell when they say 8K Hz. This is basically the highest available on any mouse, which is consistent, of course, excepting like top flagship mice. Now the clicks are the best on the market, mechanical switches with zero pre-travel and crispy actuation, every click feels intentional and precise. Build quality is German engineering, tight tolerance, no creaking, no flex, around 45 grams, which is excellent for a wired mouse. The problem is again the cable. I actually tried maining this mouse, the performance is addictive, but even with a mouse bungee, I feel the cable during aggressive flicks. You can buy a paracord replacement for like $20 to $40 and install it yourself, but you risk breaking the mouse during installation if you actually mess it up. For aggressive aimers who flick constantly and like on crack or meth, just get something wireless instead. Now speaking of wireless, there is one more mouse in this tier that pushes the limit of what mid-range can offer. And I'm talking about 80K Blazing Sky F1 Ultimate. $90, top of mid-range, bottom of the high-end. Great shape, great weight at around 38 grams. The coating is premium feeling, clicks are solid, but quality is tight. I noticed some tracking inconsistency at certain moments, felt like the sensor was slipping, and after testing on different surfaces, I found it's a surface-dependent type of mice. Works perfectly on some type of pads, but acts weirdly on others. Some people with specific grip styles also reported some issues, seems related to how you hold the mouse affecting the sensor angle. This can be fixed with firmware updates, and the 80K is responsive to community feedback, so I wouldn't really worry too much about it. At $90 you are getting a mouse that competes with 150 flagships. The gap from here to Logitech or Razer pricing buys you very little additional performance. Everything above this price gets you smaller improvements for bigger price increases. So what mid-range actually gets you? $50 to $90 buys you flagship sensors, reliable wireless, premium coating, quality switches and a consistent quality control. But I know some of you are not satisfied with that answer. Some of you want the absolute best regardless of value. You want flagship, you want premium, you want the names you see pros using. So let me show you what actually happens when you cross the $100 line. What do you actually get for that money? The answer might actually disappoint you. And I'm gonna start with T-Evolution Terra Pro. $100 to $110. This is the most ergonomic users waited 10 plus years for. A lightweight wireless version of the Logitech G703. Logitech refused to update the shape for modern standards, so T-Evolution did it instead. If you use palm grip or claw grip with ergonomic shapes, this is currently the best option available at a decent price. The shape is refined, the weight is competitive at around 60 grams, which is light for an ergonomical mouse, up to 8K Hz, of course 4K stable, battery life around like 70 hours. So what sets this apart from budget ergonomic option is everything in the box. Extra skates included, grip tape included, the 8K dongle included in some options that you might get. Of course, sometimes you have to buy it separately, depends on the region and also depends on the bundle they have available on the website. For ergonomical users, this is the answer, unless you want to pay like $180 for a Dead Adder V4 Pro. But what if you do not use ergonomical shapes? What if you want something that looks as good as it performs? And I'm talking about the Pulsar X2 Mini Crazy Light, around $130. My favorite shape to hold in this tier by far. One of the lightest mice with a hard shell and no honeycomb holes on top. And here you start getting different type of sensor, and I'm talking about flagship. This one has the XS1 flagship sensor made by Pulsar. It's one of the best sensors on the market and also very consistent with no problem. The Pulsar implementation is also consistently good, optical switches that feel super crispy, coating that grips without being sticky, software that works properly. The company built a reputation on quality fingertip mice, they understand what this grip style needs, weight optimized for minimal effort, and size that lets your fingers wrap properly around it. If fingertip grip is your style and you want quality assurance without the QC lottery, Pulsar delivers. But what about the wired option from earlier, the Endgame Gear OP1 8K? They make a wireless version too, and I'm talking about Endgame Gear OP1 wireless 4K V2. $120, sometimes even more, wireless version of the wired mouse I praised earlier. Everything good about the OP1 8K applies here as well. The shape, the build quality, the German engineering. The problem is the weight. Wired OP1 8K weighs around 45 grams. This wireless version weighs around 60 grams. For me, the extra weight is a problem on cloth pads. On my fast pad, it's just perfect. More friction means more effort to move the mouse. And with fingertip grip, you are using a small contact area. Heavier mouse plus high friction pad equals hand fatigue over long sessions. On a glass pad where friction is minimal, the weight matters less. The mouse glides easily regardless, it doesn't really matter that much. Now, if you need need wireless and love the OP18K, this is your option. Just understand the weight trade-off is significant. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the two mice everyone talks about, the names that dominate competitive gaming. And I'm talking about the Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2. This is what pros default to when they do not know what else to use. Safe shape that works for every grip style, 60 gram, which is not the lightest anymore but still super competitive, and Hero 2 sensor developed with like a lot of budget. Logitech has the resources to innovate but they still play it safe. The shape has barely changed in years, they released a mini version that felt worse than the $40 Attack Shark clone. The scroll wheel is also a known problem, heavy use will wear it down in like 3 months or something like that. Quality wise, you're getting a Chinese manufacturing with a Logitech logo. I don't really feel any difference when it comes to Logitech and Attack Shark or any other Chinese companies, to be honest. Most likely same factories, similar components, you are paying for the brand name, the software ecosystem and the warranty support. So is that worth $160 when MChose offers the same shape and similar performance for $60? That depends on how much you value Logitech name and their support if something breaks. If you want something safe, reliable and boring with brand backing, this delivers. Now let's talk about the next one. What about Razer? And for this example I'm going to talk about the Razer Viper V3 Pro. $160, current flagship king by far. The shape is excellent for fingertip and claw grip, low profile and aggressive like the VGN, Dragonfly, but more refined. Now by far Razer has the best sensor implementation, also the best sensor on the market. Their optical switches are crispy as well without being too light. Now I like the mouse, the shape fits my grip well. If they made a smaller version without charging $300 for a limited edition, it would have been perfect. Now, is it worth $160 versus $70 alternative with similar performance? Technically speaking, yeah. The VGN Dragonfly gives you a similar shape and similar specs at less than half the price, but the sensor implementation is not really quite on the same level. So if the money is not the main concern and you want a flagship from a major brand, this is the best one. Performs better than the Logitech in my opinion, more interesting shape, better feeling overall. But there is more. A tier where mice cost more than the budget graphic cards, where logic and value completely disappear, where you're paying for stories and materials instead of performance. So let me show you how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. Now I need to be completely clear about something before we continue. Nothing in this tier will make you aim better than the mice we already covered. Here you are paying for materials, scarcity, collecting, bragging rights. If you understand this and still want to see what exists at this extreme end, let me show you. $200 retail, $300 to $400 actual price because you cannot buy it at retail. So what do you get if you actually manage to buy one? Terrible clicks, light to the point of feeling accidental, easy to misclick. Terrible software, buggy and limited, terrible coating, wears off faster than mice half the price. The shape is interesting though, low and flat and aggressive. The weight is light, but nothing about the performance justifies the price. You are not buying a mouse, you are buying membership to the Final Mouse Club. For actual gaming, there are better options at every price point below this. But there is one more mouse, the final boss, the most extreme option that exists. And I'm talking about the Zone Koenig M3K. 355 euros, around $400 US. This is actually what I mean at this point. No software, no side buttons, and also has a wire. Now to even change DPI on this, you have to hold specific buttons and count clicks in a sequence. Now this is not a mouse for people trying to improve, this is a mouse for people who already know exactly what they want and have tested everything else before this. For everyone else, this is like a $400 that could buy an entire mid-range collection. You could use the MChose, VGN Dragonfly, Pulsar X2 Mini and still have money left. Buy this only if you're bored and want to see what's all the fuss about. So where should your money actually go? Under $50, here 95% of performance if you actually get a good copy. The Attack Shark X3 competes with mice 4 times its price, but quality control is random. It's kinda worth it for beginners and budget conscious buyers who accept the risk. $50 to $100, the sweet spot. Quality control becomes consistent, coating and switches are premium, wireless is reliable, performance matches flagship mice. MChose A7 at $60 or VGN Dragonfly at $75 gives you everything you actually need. This is where value peaks and diminishing returns begin. $100 to $170. Brand trust, warranty support and perfect polish. Performance gains over mid-range are minimal here. You are paying for peace of mind and the last 5% of refinement. $170 and up. These are basically all about materials and collectors. Performance identical to mid-range and high-end, only for enthusiasts who have tested everything and want extreme options. The performance ceiling is around $70 to $90 to be honest. Everything above is preference, materials, brand trust and diminishing returns. A $400 mouse in beginner's hands loses to a $40 mouse in practice hands every single time. So what mouse are you using right now? What is your rank? Drop it in the comments. I want to see if expensive gear actually correlates with high skill. So if you want to learn how to choose your perfect mouse in 2026, check out this next video.